Welcome back to the S&T Football Podcast. We're going to continue on talking about the draft steals and the hidden gems of the 2026 NFL Draft. We're talking about players that were selected from round 2 through round 7, but were very good at the college level, and I do believe they're going to make an impact on the NFL stage. So moving on to the next set of players that we have to talk about, we're going to start off with Caden McDonald, defensive tackle out of Ohio State, who goes in the second round. Pick number 36 to the Houston Texans. This guy is a freak of nature at 6'3", 326 pounds, coming out of Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State is Ohio State. So basically, their entire team has been drafted in like the past 2 drafts. So that tells you what you need to know about the Ohio State Buckeyes and the kind of NFL talent they have been producing. Basically going back, decades now, but very much accelerated in the past few years because they are on the top of the college football world right now. They are producing a lot of NFL talent, especially on the defensive side. So, very interesting story about Caden McDonald. He was actually seen as a first round grade type guy. He's actually the number 1 ranked defensive tackle in the draft. So interesting to see him fall to the second round, going to the Houston Texans. And let me talk about the Houston Texans because basically everything that they have done in the past like 4 or 5 years, I have just loved. Like, if there's one team I can point to that seems to be doing all the right things when it comes to like the draft and free agency and trades that they've made and, bold moves, like just going back a few drafts ago when the Houston Texans took took CJ Stroud with the second pick and then traded back up in the first round to get Will Anderson as well. And that has served them so well since that happened because both of those players are very good players. So just got to give my props to the Houston Texans because once again, they do another like huge move because they're basically taking like the number 1, number 2 ranked defensive tackle in the draft and getting him all the way in the second round. So a player of this caliber who was ranked very high coming out of college, like to have him fall to you that late, I mean, that's just a dream come true for, a team when it comes to their draft room and their draft night. So to get a first round type guy in the second round, can't ask for much more than that when it comes to the Houston Texans. So the Houston Texans continue to strengthen their defense, and that has been their core. These past couple years, while CJ Stroud has kind of had his up and downs on the other side of the ball. The Texans defense has been their rock. Like that has been their anchor these past couple years during their playoff runs. Their defense has played very well. Just look at that wild card win against the Pittsburgh Steelers back in January. The Texans absolutely demolished Aaron Rodgers the entire game. So to go ahead and get another first round talent on the defensive tackle position, I mean, the Texans are just, they just continue to add to that very good side of the ball already. So they're not playing around, like I've said in other episodes, like when they went and got David Montgomery. They're continuing just to make really good moves, and they're trying to do everything they can to finally bring a Lombardi Trophy back to Houston. So should be another you know should be another boom or bust season for the Texans. If it doesn't have to deal with the Super Bowls, the Texans are not really interested at this point. So that's how they're moving. But Caden McDonald out of Ohio State goes in the second round. Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington, goes to the Cleveland Browns. Second round, pick 39. So the Cleveland Browns, kind of like the Baltimore Ravens, they also took a couple receivers in this draft. They took KC Concepcion in the first round out of Texas A&M, and then right away in the second round, back to back, they take another receiver out of Washington. So obviously that is an area of concern for them. The Browns are the Browns, so multiple positions are always going to be areas of concern when the Browns are drafting. So they're always going to need holes to fill, but receiver is one of them. The receiving room has been very weak for the Browns in the past couple of years. They have had to part ways, with guys like, Amari Cooper and, they got Jerry Jeudy over from the Broncos. That's been an upgrade for them, because he's kind of bounced back a little bit. But the Browns are lacking in the receiving room. They have Cedric Tillman. They have Jerry Jeudy, like I said. Isaiah Bond as well. They got Isaiah Bond out of, he went to Alabama and Texas, the guy out of Texas. So They're trying to do things in the receiving room. They got some young guys there now. But Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman are not going to be enough for another season with the Cleveland Browns. So that is probably why they are targeting the receiving position hard and going hard in both the first and second round. So they take two really good receivers out of college. Casey Concepcion was a flashy guy at Texas A&M. Had some really great catches down there. And then Denzel Boston has been a very good receiver for Washington, and Washington has had some success in the past couple seasons as well. Going back to their national championship appearance with Michael Penix a few years ago. Washington has produced some NFL talent in the past few years, and Denzel Boston is the next one coming out of Washington. 6'4", 209. He's a big guy, so he's going to definitely add to that receiving core very well. And he goes in the second round with pick 39 to the Cleveland Browns. And we have another receiver coming out of Mississippi State this time, Brennan Thompson, going to the Los Angeles Chargers, round 4, pick 105. So Brennan Thompson was one of the best receivers on the Mississippi State Bulldogs this past year or two. And this guy he's a small receiver. He's 5'9", 170, but he is lightning quick. And he also was a flashy guy down there in the SEC for Mississippi State. So he was making some flashy plays as well. And you want to know how fast this guy is? Brennan Thompson, 4.2640. Good enough for the number one overall time for any player, any position in this year's draft. So he had the fastest time out of all players in the 2026 NFL Draft. 0.26 is blazing fast, probably one of the fastest times they've seen. I mean, there's been years now where we've seen a 4.21 and 4.22. So, the extremes of it are getting extreme, but 4.26 obviously is still blazing fast. And he goes to the Chargers, who the Chargers are always in need of speed because just like the Browns, they have struggled in the receiving core as well. Now, they have been a little bit better in the past couple years, getting Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, who's been very good. Quentin Johnson has his moments as well. But they do need some more talent. So, they got Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, but they do need some more talent in the receiving room. So that is why they target a receiver here. Brennan Thompson coming out of Mississippi State. He should be a breath of fresh air. That speed is going to kill. He is going to be able to get open, and if he gets the ball in his hands, watch out with that kind of speed. So shout out to Mr. Thompson going to the Los Angeles Chargers, round 4, 105. This might be one of my favorite guys to talk about here as well. Shout out to the Nebraska Cornhuskers producing Emmett Johnson, running back out of Nebraska, going in round 5. Pick 161 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, he is staying local. He won't have to go too far from Lincoln to Kansas City. So, Emmett Johnson was the best player on the Nebraska Cornhuskers this past season. I talk like this because I am from Nebraska, and Tom is as well, and he is a very big Nebraska fan. So Tom is obviously loving this pick here, seeing his guy get drafted. Probably didn't want him to get drafted to the Chiefs, so we both have our feelings about the Chiefs. But, good for him. He's staying local. He gets to wear the same color and everything. He's still wearing red and white. So Emmett Johnson was a very good running back for the Cornhuskers this past season. Like I said, he was their best player. He was their ground game. They had one of the best ground games in the Big Ten, and that was because of this guy right here. He was running the ball up and down Big Ten defenses all year long, and he was a part of their success this past season. They had a pretty good year with him down there. So 5'11", 200 pounds. He's a pretty big running back. He goes to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, as we know, had made a big splash this offseason by getting Kenneth Walker, who was the Super Bowl MVP for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks this past February. So they made a big splash at the running back position because they let go of Isaiah Pacheco. They let Isaiah Pacheco go over to the Lions. So they let go of their top guy, and they get another top guy, obviously, in Kenneth Walker. They got Brashard Smith out of SMU this past season, who's done very well for himself. Amari DeMercado, who's been pretty good out of TCU. And now they got Emmett Johnson. They also drafted or signed Jaden Ott out of Oklahoma, undrafted. So they are definitely trying to strengthen the running back position behind Patrick Mahomes. That was their strength during their Super Bowl runs, other than Patrick Mahomes. They had a very complimentary run game that entire time, especially with Isaiah Pacheco was holding it down for them in those Super Bowls and those playoff runs. So they're trying to get back to that. The running game has fallen off a little bit in the past year or two. Isaiah Pacheco's been banged up, and they haven't had too much going on behind him. So obviously that's what the Chiefs are targeting this offseason, trying to get back into the fold and get back into the success conversation as well over there in the AFC West. So they got left behind this past season. They're trying to make it back, and they're going to need a run game to do that. So Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska goes in round 5 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then another really cool player that I wanted to talk about is Aiden Fisher, linebacker out of Indiana. Goes in the 7th round, round 7, pick 243. So he's one of the last players taken in the draft overall, and he goes to the Houston Texans. So once again, the Houston Texans know what they are looking for on the defensive side of the ball. Aiden Fisher was another really great player for the Indiana Hoosiers this past season, all the way to winning the national championship. He was a huge part of that defense. The Indiana defense was a huge part of why they had so much success. Now, everyone talks about Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, a number 1 overall pick, all those great things. Yes, he was amazing. But without guys like this, without guys like Aiden Fisher and Omar Cooper and Charlie Becker and Elijah Surratt, guys like that, Black in the backfield, Mendy, all those guys were just huge parts of why Indiana was so successful this past season. A lot of these guys were like transfers from James Madison, who came over with Kurt Signetti, came over from James Madison to Indiana and made Indiana what it was this past season, national championship caliber team. So shout out to Aiden Fisher, another Indiana player that gets drafted. And even though he was one of the last players taken, I think he will have a very good, strong case to make this roster because, like I said, he was a stud at Indiana. He stood out. He stood out, and it's hard to do that at linebacker. You have to be a dog at linebacker to stand out nowadays, and he did just that. So this guy is a standout. He is going to add some very good weight to that defense in Houston. They got guys like, Aziz Al-Shir already, EJ Speed, Henry 202, all these names, man. But all these guys are pretty good already, and Aiden Fisher should fit into that linebacker room very well. So wishing the best for Aiden Fisher. I'm rooting for him. He's a very good player, 6'1", 233 out of Indiana. He should be a very good linebacker at the pro level. So shout out to him. Like I said, round 7, pick 243 to the Houston Texans.